Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Swiswiki. Coming up, protests in support of West Papua prisoners turns violent. Also,
the Nationality Settlement Trust has a mandate from our people. We've held that mandate for the last 14 years.
A decades-long battle over sand mining comes to an end, and
Māori and Pacific, you know what they say, one Pacific, one share Pacific.
This week marks the one-year anniversary of the Māori Queen. In West Papua, protests in support of 4 political prisoners descended into violence last week. Pro-independence activist Roni Kareni says the action was peaceful until Indonesian authorities used force to break up the crowd. The 4 West Papuan men have been imprisoned since April, reportedly for charges of treason. Protesters gathered after news that the men were being transferred from their home city of Sorong to stand trial somewhere else. I spoke with Roni Kareni about the situation and began by asking him what happened to the protesters who were arrested.
Yesterday, in a public conference, the governor has decided, and after consultation with the families, and there were consequent actions as well by our mothers the last couple of days to his house, and so the governor held a press conference and publicly mentioned that the majority that were detained will be released, and later that day, yesterday, many were already being released. That's in Sorong.
All right. And just coming back to the men that are thousands of kilometres away from Sorong, have they been sentenced?
Not yet at this stage because they don't have a lawyer, a legal representation at this stage. While they're in Makassar, it's also across major towns and cities in Indonesia, local People's Assembly or Legislative Council, people are occupying it because of corruption and the way the government is treating the locals, especially Indonesian citizens. So Makassar local government building has been burnt down as well overnight. And so this is also raising concern, particularly for the 4 leaders who are going to be on trial in Makassar District Court, particularly with their case. So that's really now concerning. But what the transfer really transpired raises many concerns from human rights defenders and many of us arguing that the transfer violates the principles of the Article 85 of the Indonesian Procedure Code, which requires trials to be held where the alleged offense occurred. And also we're calling for the transfer isolates the 4 political prisoners from family, legal counsel, and community support. And importantly as well, it undermines a fair trial guarantees under the international law, including the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights.
And what now for people in Sorong? Have authorities backed off?
As of yesterday, the authorities in principle and publicly mentioned that they won't go ahead to pursue any of the prominent leaders, but we're not taking that on a face value. Understanding the history of the Indonesian government and particularly the role of the police and military, they don't respect the law. So any verbal gesture is not taken on that face value. Our prominent leaders, particularly Sayang Mandabayan, is still in hiding. And so until it is clearly safe to do so, then yes, she and a few others will return. But what has also happened in the last couple of days over the weekend is that increased civilian intelligence operatives visiting homes of not only the prominent leaders, but many of the organizers. Mm-hmm. And they're seeing them at odd hours, like 4 or 5 in the morning or even towards midnight. So that raises trauma and concern as well. So it's not safe if to anyone at this stage, even after the release of the 30 detainees.
Okay. And with the protest and the men that have been transferred to another city, far away from their home, how does this reflect on the wider movement towards West Papua's struggle for self-determination?
Well, it reflects that there is no space for exercising your right to determine the future or determine what you feel that matters to you. It also reflects that there's no freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. It also expressed that just talking peace, just to kind of come to the table to offer peace talks is seen as treason. And so that already reflects the state of affairs in West Papua, where even looking on the other hand, where increased investment, exploitation of the natural resources, with West Papua known as one of the wealthiest and rich in natural resources. And many of these strategic national projects come at the expense of the indigenous people, no prior informed consent. We're seeing under Prabowo, he has already given green light for 10 strategic projects to be carried out across West Papua, and that's also Nicole in the Sorong area. There is the LNG project in another part, and then on the southern part of West Papua is the rice field, and then the new gold mine in Wabu block, which a lot of the strategic project comes at the expense of the indigenous people, no informed prior consent given as well. So we are seeing this settler colonialism approach with a militaristic approach on the land and the people is increasing. And so there is no room for expressing one's view or to just gather to talk about peace or a dialogue.
In Aotearoa, a small Māori community is celebrating a huge win against 80 years of sand mining on their coastline. Pakiri Beach, just north of Auckland, has been depleted of millions of tonnes of sand, used for high-strength concrete by the McCallum Bros company. Last month, they reached an agreement with the Ngāti Manuhiri Settlement Trust to stop. Pakiri is one of the largest remnants of Māori land in the Auckland region, and an advocate says the win is heartening for all Pacific people. Te Wila Fortai has more.
In the small settlement of Pakiri, some families have been fighting the removal of sand for 3 generations. The Ngāti Manuhiri Settlement Trust is the most recent body to front it, and Chairman Terence Heineck says it's all about the long game.
The Ngāti Manuhiri Settlement Trust has a mandate from our people. We've held that mandate for the last 14 years, and that mandate is solely to protect who we are as a people, our identity, and our cultural footprint within our tribal lands.
5 years ago, McCallum applied to Auckland Council for new sand mining consents. The sand they dredge makes concrete which feeds Auckland's infrastructure needs. Landmarks like the Sky Tower and Harbour Bridge are made with Pakiri sand. But objections from locals and their supporters meant the application went to the Environment Court. Until a few weeks ago, the case was also due for the High Court.
I think they've weighed everything up and come to the viewpoint that, hey, we're never going to win this one. And obviously we're not negotiable on the extraction, so there was a given that they had to withdraw immediately, and we settled on the cost amount.
McCallum will pay about $500,000 as part of the settlement, which Terence Heineck says will be used for legal fees. It will also issue an apology to Ngāti Manuhiri. The company declined an interview, but a statement on its website says going to the High Court would have been too costly and taken years. It also says it's focusing on opportunities like its fast-track application for sand mining at Bream Bay, just north of Pakiri. Greenpeace Aotearoa campaigner Jeressa Lee says right now, Pakiri is a historic win.
I think it shows that when mana whenua and communities stand up together, we can protect our coastlines and our ocean and our future.
She says it shows anti-mining advocates in Aotearoa and across the region, like those against deep-sea mining in Cook Islands, that Indigenous values of kaitiakitanga or guardianship and respect for the environment are more important than ever as the fight is ongoing.
And that these communities, Indigenous peoples and the local communities of the Cook Islands can find strength in that as we fight to stop seabed mining in the Cook Islands, in the South Taranaki Bight, and in the wider Pacific region.
Terence Heineck has a similar message. As part of the settlement, Ngāti Manuhiri get a supply of oysters for their Christmas party from McCallum.
We'll enjoy a keen conversation while we're eating them. And we're certainly celebrating that moment, but we can't take our eyes off the ball. There's some more kaupapa tomorrow that we have to actually look at and take up on behalf of our people and behalf of everyone.
The four candidates vying to be Lower Hutt's next mayor faced off last night in a debate in front of around 100 voters. The city will have a new mayor after October's local body elections, as Campbell Barry stands down from the top job after 6 years. Candidates include Samoan sports commentator Ken Laban, who spoke with Pacific Waves earlier this year. Nick James filed this report.
Infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists would be my biggest one. I've seen one cycleway built and then demolished already in Lower Hutt, and I think it's going in the wrong direction in a lot of places.
There's a lot of impromptu outages and burst pipes and stuff like that, and it would be great to understand what's being done to fix that.
I didn't realise it was as bad as it was, but being almost $600 million in debt is ludicrous.
I believe we should have been funding for infrastructure replacement and maintenance from decades ago.
Those are some of the top issues the candidates put forward to a packed event at Lower Hutt's event centre on Monday night. They were there to hear the pitches from the four candidates who have put their hands up for Lower Hutt's top job. The candidates are councillor and businessman Brady Dyer, current councillor and former Taita College principal Karen Morgan, regional councillor and sports commentator Ken Laban, and dance school founder Prabha Ravi. They mostly promise similar policies regarding the Hutt City Council's finances.
If I'm elected, I will lead a line-by-line review of council spending, because true leadership means making some tough calls.
We will stop wasteful spending and ensure every ratepayer dollar is spent wisely. And I will be commissioning an independent financial review.
We will be having a very, very close review, and as everybody has indicated, line by line.
Karen Morgan also wants a spending review, but not until the entity replacing Wellington Water starts, because it takes water off the council's books.
I do actually think there is time for a review because we're going to be changing to a new water entity, so yes. The time is now for a really good review that is transparent.
One of the ways pitched to save money during the debate was amalgamating councils. Ken Laban says he'd look at combining Hutt City Council and Upper Hutt if he gets the job.
At the moment there are 12 councillors plus the mayor in Lower Hutt, and is it the same in Upper Hutt or 11 plus one? But anyway, it's 24, 25 people. If all of a sudden those 25 councillors became 12, then that halves the cost of the council.
Brady Dyer wants to supercharge businesses and boost the council's use of technology.
We are using AI right now in our council. One example, our LIMS team used to take 6 working days of man hours to collate a LIM report. It takes 45 minutes now.
Prabha Ravi says the council needs fresh ideas, which she can deliver.
You are frustrated because your rates are skyrocketing, while the core services you rely on are not up to standard. You are frustrated because our pipes are failing, our roads are congested, and our town centres are losing their vibrancy.
It's not long until the candidates find out whether last night's audience was convinced, with Election Day for councils across the country, the 11th of October.
It's the first anniversary of the Koronehana of Te Ariki Nui Kuini Ngā Waihono i Te Pō, or the Māori Queen, and thousands have arrived at Ngaro Wahia. Koronehana is an annual week-long celebration of the Māori monarch, attracting iwi members and politicians from across the country. Last year's Koronehana saw more than 300 Pacific people in attendance.
The landscape of today, a lot of the issues that we face were intertwined, and so the solutions and our generations have to be as well. So as a young person, I'm really honoured and blessed to be here.
Pacific people have been residing in New Zealand for over 70 years. But it's the very first time that we have been invited onto Tūranga Waiwai by invitation of King Tuhetia. And we're very grateful.
And joining me to talk more about this is our reporter, Coco Lance.
Kia ora, Coco. What can we expect to happen at the week-long celebration at Tūranga Waiwai Marae in Ngarua Wahia?
Kia ora. So this year's Koroneihana will be honouring Te Arakinui Queen Ngā Waihono e Te Po, of course, and it will be historic as it's the first year since her anointment. So we can expect a lot this year, of course, honouring the late Kingi Heitia. So there will be a lot of reflection following this, year's period of mourning and healing amidst this transition into a new era. And it will be the Queen's first formal address, so that will come with conversations surrounding where Kingitanga is heading and how, we can see younger generations contributing to that. And I guess beyond that, lots of celebration, lots of kapahaka, and there will be a final festival celebration on Saturday too to kind of round everything out.
Will there be a Pacific delegation, and who do you know will be in attendance from the Pacific community?
Yeah, so the pōwhiri for Pacific delegates and leaders arriving will be on Thursday morning, and according to kind of what we know so far, we should see royalty from Tonga, the Cook Islands, Tahiti, Hawaii, and additionally delegations coming through from Tonga, the Cook Islands, Tahiti, Fiji, and Hawaii as well. Kind of expected to attend as part of the broader Pacific representation. And then beyond this, there are often, general Pacifica community members who also show up and show out and are in attendance too, in solidarity, of course.
How does something like the Koroneihana, how does that strengthen the relationship between the Pacific and Māori communities?
Yeah, well, events like Koroneihana are important for Pacific and Māori because they really showcase those long-standing relationships between the Kingitanga and Pacific nations. So, relationships which have been built over generations through lots of the shared values and traditions, respect, and I guess kind of like whanaungatanga that we all have. And Pacific leaders have been present at previous Koroneihana and, of course, the tangi for Kingi Heitia last year. So that continued presence kind of shows the respect for the legacy of past monarchs and supports the new monarch, of course. So overall, though, it's really just, a time for unity and celebration and aroha, really, between, Māori and Pacific. You know what they say, one Pacific, one shared Pacific. So being aware of those relationships between the Pacific and Māori and how it's important for Pacific to be at these events and show up for Māori during this time.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā, sui fua.